Perhaps you have heard of zinc and perhaps you have not. Perhaps you know how important zinc is and you make sure to consume it daily as a supplement or in meat, grains, or nuts. Maybe you know the role zinc plays in your health and how it contributes to immune health by protecting the body from toxins, and that a zinc deficiency causes skin issues and stunted growth. Maybe you know that zinc is needed to create new cells. And if you didn't know, another amazing thing about zinc is the world's discovery of the zinc spark. Back in 2016, researchers discovered that the zinc spark is an inorganic signature of human egg activation. Egg activation is the event that transitions egg and/or sperm into an embryo, which is the initial stage of human life in the womb before it becomes a fetus at the end of week 8. Basically, the zinc spark is the event where a stunning explosion of zinc fireworks occurs when a human egg is activated by a sperm enzyme. This has been called the spark of life, or proof that life begins at conception. Zinc is actually necessary for the development of those tiny humans in the womb. Zinc is a trace mineral, a chemical element, a metal, and when it meets a nonmetal or an acid, a salt is formed. This might be better known as ionic zinc, which is better absorbed by the body so one can readily reap the benefits of zinc. The zinc spark is an instance signifying the beginning of life. Light indicates life in many instances. After all, when we look at someone in the throes of depression, for instance, which is a life-sucking state of being, oftentimes we notice the spark is gone from their eyes. And actually, zinc deficiency can cause depression. Furthermore, zinc is found primarily in the bones and muscles, and secondly, by a long shot, in the skin and liver. The Most High, the Creator, formed Adam from the loose earth. Some sources suggest that this wasn't dust, but ore. Ore is a rock or mineral deposit. It contains metals or minerals of value. Think gold. However, some ores contain zinc. So let's go with the idea that Adam was formed from the loose earth, meaning ore, not dust. Ore can also turn into dust, though. Either way, fires used to be started in a few ways. There was by means of a bow drill and tinder, which is dried plant materials or fibers. There was also the means of striking ore against flint, which would create the spark needed to ignite the tinder. With that first method in mind, look at how this resource translates this passage in Genesis. It originally says, "And the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul." But let's look at it this way. "And the fire maker formed a man of dust on the tinder, and he blew into the tinder the breath of life, and the man became a living fire." I can go even further with that, but let's just leave it there and focus on the concept of the Creator as the fire maker and how the breath of life sets us on fire. The Spirit of Yah is a consuming fire, a flame that begets more flames. And it's interesting how the Messiah also is compared to a rock, especially when you consider how a rock or an ore is one part of the equation and fire starting. I also wanted to note how fire is, of course, a light source. The Hebrew word for light is or, a different spelling from the mineral rock and a different language, but still a pretty cool finding. So earlier I mentioned where zinc is primarily in the body. It's in the bones. The bones are figuratively our essence. Zinc is a big part of our essence. Not the only thing, but it plays a big role. The zinc spark is triggered by an increase in calcium within the fertilized egg, as fertilization triggers cyclical changes in the level of calcium in the egg cell. So this made me wonder if this is the essence of the human in the making. Not the bones necessarily, as they don't begin forming by week 6 or 7. But since the spiritual comes before the physical, what if this is the essence of the essence? The essence of the bones. Basically, what if this is the soul being ignited before more of the physical aspects are formed in the womb? Most calcium in our body is in our bones, but bones also contain non-metal elements such as carbon, phosphorus, and oxygen. Oxygen, the breath of life, into our souls, giving us that spark of life. Before I let you go, I also wanted to share something interesting that I experienced while researching this topic. The whole time I was researching, I felt nauseous. If you've ever taken zinc on an empty stomach, you may be familiar with the nausea it brings. That is how I felt. My mouth even tasted like zinc. But I was indeed satiated and had not taken any zinc. It was an interesting occurrence, I'd say. But that's all, my friends. Go and let your light shine. Peace.